Hi, my name's Phil, and I have a newborn baby. And I was looking into these so-called Trump accounts, and I was texting my coworkers like, "Hey, these are pretty crazy. This doesn't sound right." So I did a little more research and realized it wasn't quite right what I was thinking. But, anyways, I just want to get some thoughts into video form. So this is gonna be very crude because I need to bring my wife her breast milk pump. So let's get through this. So first of all, let me white some of this out so we can think, okay? Because this is way too much to look at. Um, let's take this one step at a time. Jesus Christ. Okay. So, in the simplest case, all right, let's take it back even simpler, so we can read and understand this thing. Okay. So, Trump accounts. What they are is it's all right. So maybe let's start with Roth IRAs. So Roth IRAs are retirement accounts that you can basically contribute 7,500 into every year. Whoops. All right, maybe we need a new column for that to just explain how those work. This is going to take longer than I thought. All right, so let's say you contributed and normally you can start them once you turn 18. So let's say you just turned 18 and just one time you contribute oh, it's white. Just once you contribute what? It's still white. Jesus Christ. All right. Just once you contribute the max amount, 7,500. All right. So it's not just a place you just put your money. You put it in the account and then you invest it in a stock, like an ETF, like the S&P 500. And don't get too confused by what I'm talking about. All I'm talking about is that the amount you have, it increases by 10% each year. And increasing by 10% is the same thing as being multiplied by 1.1, right? 1 times anything is itself, times 0.1 is 10. So if you do times 1.1, it's like the same amount plus another 10% of what it was. So let's do that. So let's say we have a normal Roth IRA. So I'm just going to do times the growth rate so that we can change this if we want to. And let's make this whole column visible. So hopefully this was work. All right. Anyways, so great. And then I'm just going to fix this. So we're always talking about this cell. All right. Okay, so great. We invested this much, and after a year it gets 10% because we're assuming that the stock we invested in, the ETF, we're assuming it increases an average of 10% each year. And what's beautiful about a Roth IRA is that if you wait until you're 65, you can withdraw it penalty and tax free. So that's amazing. It grows tax free. So you're not going to pay income taxes when you withdraw it. So how income taxes work is however much money you made that year, you get taxed on that when you pay taxes the next April. So, so based on how much you make, that determines your tax bracket, and your tax bracket, that tells how much percentage of your income gets taken out. But the beautiful thing about a Roth IRA is that you don't get that tax. The tax, you will get taxed on something else we talk about. We're not going to talk about that yet. We're just going to still focus on normal Roth IRA. All right, so say you did that just one time. Just one time you contributed this amount, and it grows 10% each year, and you won't have to pay taxes once you turn 65. So I'm assuming your newborn is born in 2026. So in 2029, you turned 7,500 to over 500,000. So let's maybe say turn 65, can withdraw, tax free, penalty free. Great. All right. Now let's just say as soon as you turn 18, you had a fire job, or you had some fire parents who made you fire privileged. So you can contribute this much every year once you turn 18. Okay, so this column. Okay, so you contribute the first year, so then you get what you got the previous year times like another 10, adding another 10%. I'm just fixing that in place. And then you can now you have a sick job or sick privileged life, and you have another 7,500 to contribute each year. All right, so now let's see how much this grows. If you manage to do this every single year. So this is how much you would have. All right, so in this instance, you only contributed, I'm just saying like your total contribution, you only contributed that 7,500. Oops. And then in this instance, you did whatever 65 minus 18 is 47. So you have 47 times that much. That's how much you contributed to turn into this. Great. Okay. So that's pretty sweet that you could turn this into this or this into this. I'm recording something, by the way. Sorry. Just gonna bring it up once I'm done. Okay. Your mom has them outside. All right. Okay, so you could turn 7,500 into 600,000, or you could turn 350,000. Over a lifetime, or half a lifetime, it's 65 years, into 7 million. All right. So this is the most realistic scenario.
It's mama. It's your mama. Fussing like what we skip and get. I just realized something.
What?
Your child doesn't have an auntie.
Oh.
You have no aunties.
No aunties. Alright. Okay, so this isn't clickbait. Let's get to. That was just laying some foundation so that we can understand what I'm about to explain. Alright. Okay. Guess I gotta put some timestamps in this. Alright, now that's a normal Roth IRA, but now let's say these Trump accounts. So assuming these Trump accounts are legit, let's figure this into a picture. So basically the point of these Trump accounts is that you could start saving before you turn 18. Okay? So you can contribute $5,000 a year, and then the first year, if your child is born between 2025 to 2028, because it's years Trump's in office, the government will give you $1,000. So let's just say equals 5,000 that you contribute plus 1,000 that the government gives you. So you've only contributed $5,000. So let's say you do that once, but then you can invest it in what you want to invest it anyways, which is like an American ETF, like the S&P 500. So we're still assuming a 10% annual return rate. So there's like multiplying by 1.1. So, all right, how do you have these pre-made? So let's say before you turn 18, when you turn 18, just from that 6,000, that would turn into 30,000 by the time you turn 18. Okay. once you turn 18, a couple things happen, and I didn't even spend the time looking into the other options. I think you can do other stuff, but basically it turns into a traditional IRA. But you can always take a traditional IRA and roll it into a Roth IRA to get those tax-free, penalty-free benefits. It's been a long day. Okay, so assume that you made that one contribution, and then you do nothing, you don't touch it. It grows 10% a year. Then when you turn 18, you turn into a Roth IRA, and then you contribute that one more payment, one more max contribution that year of $7,500. So what this equation is like your previous amount times that 10% over here, and then you're making one more contribution of $7,500. So what you have is now basically 41K in your account. Okay, so we're just assuming, see, all of these is just the previous cell. So B22, B22, which is the previous cell times another 10%. So every year it grows another 10% until they turn 65 in the year 2091. So by the year 2091, you could withdraw tax-free $3.6 million just by so give it away, but you contributed $5,000 in the beginning. Remember, the government gave you an extra $1,000 just for having a baby born when Trump was in office, and then plus one-time contribution right when they turn 18 of $7,500. All right, and then one more caveat. So this is where that $12,500 comes from. One more thing though is that once it turns into a traditional IRA, at some point, maybe it's when you convert it into a Roth IRA. Yeah, I think so. That's when you do need to pay income tax on it. By you, I mean your child, and they would be in a very low tax bracket. And then, but you could contribute. So, in this case, 30K. I want to say the standard deduction is 16K, so you could do it over 2 years. But before I pull up my history, let me pause the screen. That's fine. Okay. Okay. So, when a child is age 18, they may be finishing high school and they may have no other taxable income, but if the taxable portion is under the standard deduction, they will pay no tax on the amount as they will be in a zero federal income tax bracket. So we're talking about the lower case now. So over 2 years, they could roll over 16K worth of that 30K into the account and pay no tax. So this holds true at this point. So that is how. So the video could end here. That is how you could turn 12,500 into 3.6 million for your child, for a newborn born between 2025 and 2028, assuming a 10% annual return. You pay $5,000 this year, another $7,500 when they turn 18. I think the only issue is that they have to earn this amount. Yeah, like this has to be, I'm pretty sure, or they just have to have some income. All right, let's figure it out. To contribute to a Roth IRA, do you just need any income, or do you need at least the amount you contribute? That's probably that. So you must have earned income at least equal to the amount you contribute. So if you're an 18-year-old, you have to have earned 7,500, and then you can contribute it. So really the video should end here because, all right, so this is the most realistic. Wait a second. Really, this is the most realistic. Like, why would you do this when you could just do, I mean, like, if you have a $5,000 you could spare and as if it doesn't exist anymore, this is what you would do. So this is for some people, a realistic scenario. How to turn $12,500 into $3.6 million, given the assumptions we made. So you're also assuming that your 18-year-old can earn 7,500 within 1 calendar year. Okay. So I've already put myself in the doghouse or whatever by taking the time to make this spreadsheet and then turn on a live video to record my explanation. So might as well just finish the fantasy explanation. All right, so what if you contribute $5,000 every year to this Trump account, which you can do as a parent with like an income if you're good enough with your money. All right, so in that case, you could end up, when they turn 18, assuming a 10% annual return, you could end up with $233,000 in that account, and then you could roll that into a Roth IRA, and then all right, so this is where it gets less realistic because before I had it, so I'm gonna change this, so don't get too excited, but this was assuming that you're, probably your student at this point, can make 7,500 a year. So I mean, like, that's not impossible. No, that's not. You could work a job at a grocery store and make that much. Like, you could do it. All right, so it's possible. All right, so assuming that your 18-year-old can make that much, and when you think about it, they could, like, you could give it to them too. They just have to have on paper that they earned 7,500 a year. So I'm gonna bring it up. So they contribute 7,500 a year every year, and then we're assuming this is like a fantasy situation, not fantasy, but harder to attain situation. And then once you turn 50, the new annual contribution limit is 8,600. So we're now adding that to the amount. So if they did that every year, then the amount of contributions you made, so here I spelled it out, $5,000 for the first 18 years, $7,500 for the next 32 years before they turn 50, and then the last 15 years. So this pulls the least weight. So, this is just like the max scenario. You could just end up the most powerful. This is the most powerful. The money that you put in is going the farthest the earlier you put it in. And then, like, this money you're putting in, you probably would rather just spend this money somewhere else. Especially if you saw your balance and knew you had this much, you probably wouldn't be contributing to it. But I'm just saying, like, if you did do that, then you could turn, over 65 years, like, you and your child or you and your parent would have put in about 460,000, but you would have turned that into 29 million. I'm not going to say 30 million because that's rounding up 150,000. So 29.8 million. You turned 460,000 into 29.8 million. So, obviously, this is all you need to be happy, probably. I mean, I guess I'm not really accounting for inflation, so maybe to maintain a high quality of life, we need to do that. But, alright, like, we gotta end this video somewhere. Alright, and then now for the extreme situation, where we did everything we talked about, but somehow your newborn from the year they're born to the year they're 18, if they could make $7,500 a year. So this is like not impossible, but like pretty much impossible. It's very unlikely that one would be able to do this, but legally they could do this. You as a parent would just have to find a way for your child to earn $7,500 a year for this to be possible. And this is what it is. If they started a Roth IRA as soon as they're born, then you could open up a Roth IRA for them. I guess it's called a custodial account, I think. And then you could also max out the Trump account at the same time, and then roll the Trump account into the Roth IRA. All right, so let's see. So if you just their newborn, maybe you get them a crazy acting gig and they land a role in a movie, and they make $7,500. Then by the time they're 18, that will turn it's just the previous number, D3, just the previous number times 10%, or like times 1.1, it's increasing by 10%. Now, once they turn 18, 7,500 turns into just shy of 38,000. All right. So now at this point, you can take your, let's see, so from that $6,000, like if you opened a Trump account, you did that, you contributed 5,000 plus the 1,000. Now if you did that plus the amount just from this one 7,500, it would turn to 37, like it let's see what it turned to the next year. So after, like, once the year they turn 19, there would be 72,000 in that account. Now at this point, 30K might not seem like too much of a difference, but remember what I said, the earlier this is, the more powerful it is because it keeps compounding. All right, so from this, and now it's just the previous amount. Basically now times purple means, we understand to mean the previous year times 10%. So now, even though it's only 30K more from that original gig, they just got 7,500. By the time they're 65, it's almost twice as much money. So that's not right. So this is, this is only a contribution of no, this is not right. The 5,000 you paid up front for the Trump account, plus the initial 7,500, but this isn't when they turned 18. This is from if instead of contributing the 7.5K here, once they turned 18, you could somehow, if you somehow contributed it when they were the first year they were born. Yep. Then if you find a way if one can find a way for their newborn to earn $7,500, if you can find a legal way that the IRS accepts, and you take advantage of the Trump account and you put $5,000 towards it the year they're born, then unless I'm mistaken, and please find my mistake because I probably made one, then they could withdraw 6.3 million by the time they're 65. So like, I must have made a mistake somewhere. So tell me in the comments. All right. So that is I called unrealistic, and now let's just like we gotta just take it even further, right? What if your kid could make $7,500 a year every year until they turned 18? What if they had a recurring role in a film that they make every year and they get paid $7,500 for it? Let's say, like they're on Full House. I don't know. I'm being so silly. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, so if you did that, you contribute. Look, 7,500. The next year, it's the previous amount times 10. Like adding 10%. Then you contribute that again. So by the time they're 18, that turns into 341,000. Now remember what we said with this increase of 30K. Now we're talking about this. All right. So now from this point, the reason why we're only now adding 7,500 is that because once you roll the Trump account into a Roth IRA, that is now your like IRA max limit. Like you can't contribute more than 7,500 across all of your IRAs. We're not even talking about work retirement accounts yet. All right, now, okay. So now let's say they're able to contribute 7,500 every year from when they're 18, to 50, and then once they turn 50, if they're able to contribute 8,600 per year. So in this instance, they either you and your child or you and your parent would have made a total of 600,000 in contributions, but you would have turned that into $40 million. So I think it's appropriate to call the title of this turn 12K, 12.5K into 3.6 million in 65 years. This is the most realistic, and you know what? Yeah, no, that's the most realistic. So obviously I think all right, the moral of the story is that if you can finesse a way for your newborn to make $7,500 the first year they're born, then you can in fact turn 12.5K into, I'm just making sure I didn't double add. Yeah. Then you could turn that into 6.3 million by the time they turn 65. That is like the moral of this story, because maybe you already knew this, or you probably already knew this one, or well, if you didn't, now you know. So this one for sure got to get on that, because you could just, yeah. This one, Trump accounts have entered the picture. So there's no problem with this $5,000. You can contribute $5,000 a year. Then if your kid can make 7.5K, then you can add it once they turn 18. That will, assuming 10% increase, turn to 3.6 million. Then if you can finesse a way for them to make this the first year they're born, it's just gonna add that extra like almost $8,000, and that makes a huge difference. That $8,000 that early on in their lives makes the difference to turn 3.6 into 6.3 million. Yeah. And then, of course, if you're a child actress, you're making so much money that who cares? You're just gonna be filthy rich your whole life. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe you're a washout. I don't know. Okay, so that was my spiel. And I'm sure I made a mistake somewhere. I guess we have to talk about this part. This is the thing I missed probably, is that if you have this much, then you still will need to pay taxes when you convert it into a Roth IRA. So let's say the gains you make is going to be let's do it here maybe, is going to be so it's this amount minus how much you paid, which is 5,000 times 18, because you're taxed on the income, not how much you put in. So this is your gains, and then let's say you're in a 15% tax bracket. So if you're in 15%, what's the lowest tax bracket? All right, let's just ask this whole question. So, if you live in Massachusetts and made capital gains of this much, how much would you pay in taxes? Let's just ask the question. All right, so you'll pay state tax, state and federal, and then who knows, probably way around that too. Okay, so here's the mistake we made. All right, so take away. What's the takeaway? Take away pay. You can infer that, right? No, not the takeaway. And so, wait, what's long term? Long term is more than a year. Okay, wait. What? Holding your assets for more than 1 year before selling will save you $1,000. So, damn. All right, I'm officially confused. So 15% fairly given 5% long term rate. Okay, these are not take home. I thought that was the. Hi Kyoto. Hi baby. Alright, I'm gonna wrap this up. So I'm just finishing this last thing up. Is that if at this point you in Massachusetts you pay this much in taxes, C20. Right. Okay. So at this point, you pay this much in taxes. Okay. So now I'm feeling a little more confident in this number, and then we need to do the same thing for. Wait, still the same, right? Because this. Oh, we didn't even add the Trump account to if we did it every year. Wow. Okay. Oops. So, first of all, we are going to have so say in the every year calculation we're doing if we also did that. All right. So minus this for the gains on the Trump account, and then we need to add what the Trump account would be, which would be this is the amount they're rolling into it. So this is the amount this blue teal is the blue. This is what you're rolling into it. This is what you pay on taxes on it. So it's like the previous thing times 10% plus every year you contribute this. Okay. So now I'm feeling better about this. All right. So let me share this with myself. Oops.
Turn this light off.
Yeah. Make a copy. Oh. And I can share this. Yep.
No, I just thought they called me.
Oh no.
Like,
Yep. All right. So I will share a link to this.
alrighty. Don't forget to just write what time he wakes up and goes to sleep.